Okay, thanks a lot. You people must be tired if you've been attending all the sessions, which I'm not sure is the case. I came in and they said, Lucky Ali is speaking at 5:40. So, appropriate to my age, and I said, who the hell is Lucky Ali? I hope he's not here. And I said, okay, then I'm Unlucky Ali. You should introduce me properly. I've come here not because I'm short of things to do. I've come here not because I wanted to be nice to one of these charming girls who invited me. I've come here because I really have a message for the HR community. And I want to tell you what the message is. It won't take me more than 10 minutes to tell you the message. But as you know, messaging also has an art. You have to package it. So I'll use the half an hour, but I promise not to take even 1 minute more, because these girls have warned me that some dog will be put onto my back if I don't watch that thing there. And the message I want to deliver to you in a nutshell is, after 55 years of my corporate career, I am now convinced that I partly missed a great opportunity to help the HR function to play its true role in a company. I think I have some experiences which I shall narrate very briefly in the available time, but most CEOs don't know how to use HR. HR doesn't know how to be useful to CEOs. The subject given to me, therefore, is very fortuitous. What the CEO really wants from HR. This subject has been going on in HR seminars for the last 25 years. But still we don't seem to get a connect. Somewhere there are two parallel lines. And the HR community is waiting, like Abraham is waiting for a message from God. And the CEOs are carrying on saying, if he's not ready, I'll do it myself. And this is not a good sign with the advancement of technology. Technology is dehumanizing us. Don't forgive all the guys who are standing outside and selling you software, because that has no humanware in it. It's a very good thing. I am not against technology. I started my career in technology, in IT to be precise, but it's a very different world at that time. But what technology is doing is making managers more and more rational and left-brained, process-oriented. But it's a very interesting thought that I want to, which you know already, but I want to bring to your attention. Lots of things have changed in the world from the time of Ramayana, or if you want to go even earlier than that. But the human brain is evolving much slower than technology. Now maybe these guys will say, watch when artificial intelligence comes, but I have my natural intelligence until it comes. And when it comes, I may not be around. So I don't have to give too much importance to artificial intelligence. I think it's important, but we'll see what comes out of it. You see, there's been technology in the last 250 years, just to be brief. You've seen the steam engine, you've seen the internal combustion engine, you've seen telecom, you've seen software. And technology moves at a relentless pace because it's to do with human ingenuity, creativity, science. But this brain is not very different from what Sri Ramchandra had or what Yudhishthir had. That any brain scientist will tell you, because they understand the brain only slightly better than you and me. And when you therefore have a phase lag, as physicists would call it, between the advancement of the resources and the preparation of people to deal with it, there's a jarring effect. That's where HR is caught. It is caught in this gearbox where there's no lubrication, and even Castrol cannot help you in that process. And I speak to CEOs, I'm taking the opportunity to speak to HR people to say this jam must be removed. One of the big and important developments that I have noticed over 50 years is that people are talking of change and transformation a hell of a lot more than before. We've always talked about change and transformation. But when the New Indian Express requested me to write a monthly column for their edit page, and I said, I can't write on, and I don't want to write on BJP, Modi, things that are interesting to common people. I said, I can write about transforming organizations. They said, okay. Now I've written for the last 2 years, and they want more of it. I said, we're an ordinary non-financial newspaper. Is interested in this. There must be something in the oven. And I have come to the conclusion that what is in the oven is that the frequency and the scale of change required is accelerating. Now, you don't need me to give a speech on that. All of you are victims or causes of it, as the case may be. But what this means is that you have to human engineer, because this brain that is slower than everything else has to be re-engineered. Now, if I got a fertilizer plant or a refinery and I want to re-engineer the chemistry and the chemical engineering, who will I call? A chemical engineer, right? Unlikely to call a doctorate in psychology. But if I want to re-engineer the collective psyche of an organization of 2,000 people or 20,000 people, who is my chemical engineer? The human engineer. Now, the HR guys, on the other hand, have been trained over the last 50 years as people who are transactional managers. It's not their fault. Somebody who's 21, 22 joins a company, he goes to XLRI or whichever institute, then he's taught pay and benefit systems, insurance systems, something, industrial relations, and the guy becomes head of HR after 25 years, perhaps very deservedly, but he's damn good at transactional matters. So they are the most unpopular in every company, because they say you can't have this leave, you can't do this, you can't charge this telephone bill, because they're transactional. If every chartered accountant became an auditor, the world will be impossible, it will be insufferable. And that's what we have created in HR. Every HR trained person has become a transactional manager and not a transformational leader. So is there a difference between the two? There is. A transactional manager gets a transaction done. A transformational manager thinks of possibilities, which I see is your theme, thinking of possibilities. Think of a metaphoric thing. Imagine that I catch hold of a geologist and an astronomer, train them physically, put a backpack of their kurpis and their instruments at the back, put them on a rocket and send them to the moon. And say, when you get out of the spaceship, send us signals of what you're observing. What do you think the geologist will do? He will get out, he will start digging the ground, because he wants to find out what is inside it. And he will keep sending you messages saying, I found zinc, I found water. Oh, there is copper, I found antimony. The geologist likes to look into what is inside this. The astronomer will take out his instruments, he'll look at the sky and say, what is this a part of? And he sees a very different thing from the geologist. The HR people have to be helped to move from being geologists to astronomers. By the way, it's not one or the other skill, you need both. But instead of being 75-25, it should be 25-75. You must learn transactional management, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's useless to know pay and benefits and organization structure and systems. You must know that. It is like if you want to be a marketing director, you better learn how the bazaar works and how the sales managers work. But having done that, as you rise, when you become a leader as distinct from a manager, and the world is desperately crying for HR leaders, used in the manner in which I'm using it. I want to narrate to you very briefly 2 examples from my own career when in an aberrant moment I decided to rely on the HR guys. I use the word aberrant moment because 30 years ago it was not a given. the HR guy is an important member, if not the most important member of your team. Until 1990, I was comfortable in Hindustan Lever. I was a director on the board. I was in charge of exports, running a profit center, traveling all around the world. I had met the same people in the same organization, in a similar office, discussing similar products. I was in my comfort zone, but I was only 44 or 45. And Unilever came up and said, they implied that I had some potential, but they said, would you go and live in Jeddah to be the chairman of the Unilever subsidiary that was to be formed? It was to be created, called Unilever Arabia. And they said, make a Hindustan lever out of Arabian lever. After debating with my wife whether our 10-year-old daughters should be put into an abaya, we decided to go. And we've enjoyed it, I must say, in hindsight, professionally. And my wife learnt how to enjoy it, which is also a good trait for a wife to have. It was helpful that she agreed. If she had not agreed to come, I couldn't have taken the job, and it will be a different story. So I'm grateful to her for what she did. What I found was that there were 11 joint ventures. You know, Arabia from here looks like a small little troublesome place with oil in it. There were 11 joint ventures. And just because they all wear a dish dash, if you think a Bahraini is similar to a Qatari, who's similar to a Kuwaiti or a Abu Dhabi, you're wrong. They're quite different. With the pride, it must have been the way invaders found India. You know, the Chalukyas were different from the Cholas and the so on and so forth. Anyway, stitching 11 joint ventures together and creating a new company with a new business and a new portfolio required a lot of expatriates to come on shore. And I said, I want Unilever experienced people who have got sand in their boots. Now, if you're sitting in London and making a statement like that, it sounds like some mad guy who's come out from nowhere. But the first person I recruited was my HR chief. And the HR department themselves in Unilever said, why are you recruiting your HR chief first? You should be looking for your marketing director, your operations. I said, why? There are different people who are going to come with different ideas in their heads. Each one thinking he is right. He or she is right. This is human engineering. I need my human engineer on board first. We'll deal with the marketing and so on later. And I found a young upcoming Scotsman called Colin Davey. We had a chat, and he came on board. And then, of course, we recruited and expatriated almost 80, 90 people onto the deserts, right in the middle of the George Bush action in Kuwait. The war started the day I took over. I'm not saying they're connected, but you know, it's just coincidence that it happened that way. And that added a further tension, because everybody said, what will happen when we go there? The second experience I had was when my young friend Kumar here was also present. When I came back to India as, I'm sorry, I'm calling him young friend, he's retired. I came back to Brook Bond Lipton as the managing director. And he said, nice to be back home. Brook Bond Lipton acquired or merged 8 companies within a period of 18 months. It's like going to Krishna Sweets and gorging yourself and finding that you have indigestion. I know Mysore Pak is nice and Jangiri is nice, but you can't eat all of it on the same day. 8 companies. You may think Brook Bond Lipton sab chai ka hai. That's why when I see tech companies just merging, by, you know, Dinsa bought Binsa, Binsa bought something else, I say, for these guys it looks like a mixed vegetable curry. It's okay. But I find it difficult to believe, because people come with cultures in their head. And you may think Brook Bond and Lipton are the same guys. They got a cuboid in which they sell tea, which is similar and occasionally refreshing. But the Lipton guy had been trained for 35 years to kill Brook Bond. And the Brookborn guy dreamt all night about turning the head of the Lipton guy. Right? That is competition. And if Ola merges with Uber, I don't know, all the tech guys seems to get very happy. But I don't know. It will be challenging. Maybe it's a good idea. I'm not discussing that. And we had an HR chief called R.R. Nair. And we had a number of experiences. Because I said, here's the first guy I must talk to. In fact, some of my operations directors would get a bit upset because they would ask to meet me. And I said, I'm with the HR guy. They said, what's wrong with you? Why the HR guy? I'm the technical director. I said, then go to the tech HR now. There is no point because I am busy doing this. And I learned 5 lessons. By sharing the lessons, I'm not suggesting to you that I learned everything. But unless I give you something which is practical, I don't think you will get any value out of this. And I don't have to explain a lot. When you give an example, people put 2 and 2 and they get 4.1 or 3.9, but they get it. By the way, just to let you know, today it looks like it's easy to come and talk about at 5 o'clock in the evening in Gurgaon. I was so taken up with the fact that I had 16 nationalities working for me in Arabia, with each one with his or her own culture. On top of that, different partners with their own objectives. It was like a mini India. Diversity, and had to create unity out of it. What Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel did and VP Menon did, I have read in books. But in a small laboratory way, extremely small, I was faced with it. And each one came and said, oh, that's the way Unilever has always done it. I said, where? He said, in Unilever, Sweden. The next guy would say, but that's not the way Unilever does it. I'm from Unilever, Brazil. We do it differently. And so you got all these clashes. So to sort out the confusion in my mind, I persuaded Unilever to spend $20,000 or whatever to go to INSEAD. And I came back, how to get the best out of multicultural groups. And they said various things, the academics, but I wrote out of it in my notes, SCUPT. The key to making HR help is SCUPT. What is that? Socialization, communication, understanding, patience, and trust. Now, are those new words? Every HR, you will be discussing this in the morning already up to now, and tomorrow some other people will, give you the same words. But I'm telling you, when I practice it, when I have the human engineer standing next to me, and it requires a courageous human engineer, not a yes sir, 3 bags full human engineer. I used to ask them very often, how was the communication session? My first reaction was, oh, you did very well. I said, yeah, tell me what I didn't do well. I'm really serious, I want feedback. And then something will come. You were looking very impatient. You said something, but your body was saying something else. I said, that's what's value. That's what a human engineer is supposed to do. A chemical engineer is not a guy who takes a hatodi and starts breaking every pipe. He's the guy who can say the pressure and the temperature in these places wasn't quite in balance. So the role played by Colin Davey and R.R. Nair and the HR function in general, I'm using their names in a short form. There are 5 lessons I came away with. I got 11 minutes, so I'll take 2 minutes a session. Is that all right? See, I also do time engineering. The first is recruit your HR chief, the right guy. By the way, if you get a transactional babu, don't take him. Not for this job. Some other job, yes. And get him in as an ally. When you meet somebody for the first time, I didn't know Colin Davey. I had met R.R. Nair a few times, but they weren't allies. To make an ally out of somebody without 10 years experience, you can't say at the end of 10 years he became an ally. You have to make him your ally from day one. And there are a number of things you can do. I don't have to tell this audience how to go about it. But if the HR chap is waiting for an appointment saying, sir, 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 then I think you have a problem. Prakash Tandon, who was the chairman of Hindustan Lever, the first Indian chairman, I was not his HR chap, I was a puppy. He was, well, if I was a puppy, he was the dog, I suppose, but I don't intend that. I used to call him sir. And he said, Gopal, now you should call me Prakash. I said, sir, you just leave some Prakash with me and that's enough for me. I don't want to call you Prakash. Many HR people call their bosses sir. That's a bad sign. I give this message to CEOs also. If I can't go to my CEO and say, hello Ratan, if I have to say, hello Mr. Tata sir, well, I've lost the plot before I've started. So recruit your HR person early and take steps to make him an ally, and that requires common sense, no great attending tech HR conferences. Second, push yourself to interact with the least powerful people in the organization. You see, all CEOs' travel plans and meeting plans are organized. They're so organized that it's stage. If the CEO goes to the marketplace, the shopkeeper says, बहुत देर से आपका इंतज़ार है, आइए आइए आइए. कैसे बहुत देर से, आपको कैसे मालूम है? वो तो एक हफ्ते से यहाँ के सजा रहा है दुकान. You know, the truth comes out. When Hurrien's Amul was being celebrated as a fantastic experiment, what did Shastri ji do? He said, ठीक है, मैंने सब सुन लिया है. मैं जाना चाहता हूँ आनंद में. मुझे एक गांव में अकेला रहना है. I don't want him to know I'm the Prime Minister. I want to stay one night with a farmer. Hindustan Lever chairmen have a tradition. They'll go to the market and they'll meet the distributor, they'll meet the salesman, and they'll write him a letter at the end saying it was a great pleasure to meet you. And those guys keep it for the rest of their lives. But the more important thing is he comes back with insights which we never got. Nirma was eating Hindustan Lever for breakfast and lunch and dinner. And you may say the chairman ko kuch malum nahi hai, but he's chairman, yeah. He went to the market and he said, yaar, apna to kya ho raha hai? What's happening to my market shares? Kuch gadbad hai. And he cracked the bloody whip and made the company respond, and wheel came out of that. But the trigger was a visit to the marketplace. Now, it's not natural for the CEO to interact with the least powerful people. In fact, it's natural to deal with the more senior people. I'll call a top leadership team meeting. And the HR guys are delighted. ऐसा seminar attend कर लेते हैं. But unless you break that mold, you will not connect. Lesson number 3. While you may formalize mechanism, and you should formalize mechanisms to listen, you have to have informal ways also. Again, you don't require any great lecture on it. If I tell you how to make it formal, informal, you say this guy is nuts. You have to understand the CEO is deaf. Don't go and tell him that, you may be fired. But CEOs are deaf. I've been a CEO. And I know when I've been deaf. Why? Because you're so obsessed with your long-term plan, with your short-term plan, with your annual budget, with your quarterly results, with your boss coming and, doing this, that. And you think sun doesn't rise in the east. It arises from me. Otherwise, you wouldn't have become CEO in the first place. So the CEO is not, he's been untrained or detrained from listening to other people. And the HR guy is, you don't have to go and tell him that on his face. There are ways to disagree without being disagreeable. There are ways to be saying tough things in a sweet way. And my biggest example is, what did Vibhishana tell Ravana in the court in Lanka when they're all baying for Hanuman to be killed? The HR chief was Vibhishana. He could have also kept quiet because everybody was saying, kill this guy, he's destroyed my city. What did Vibhishana say? Vibhishana said, oh Ravana, you're the greatest Chakravarti in this country. You're so learned. The gods have come and given you boons. You cannot violate subsection 2 of Article 43. So he said, what is subsection 2 of Article 43? It says never kill a messenger. You can punish him, but don't kill a messenger. He doesn't behove you. आप चक्रवर्ती हैं. Anybody called Chakravarti here, be happy. And that's how Hanuman was spared. And he was punished, of course. In the story we know. This is the kind of कड़ी बातों को मीठी मीठी तरह से कहना है. अभी HR वालों को कौन ट्रेन करेगा? टेक HR तो करते नहीं हैं. But there are techniques, there are ways. And some of you are experienced, and I have not got any great knowledge personally, but these are not difficult to do. So the first lesson was recruit the HR chief early and make him an ally. The second was interact with the least powerful people. And the third one is formalize for informal and formal ways of feedback. Fourth, use the burning platform to stimulate change. How to create deconstruction out of constructive change. Now it's very easy to say, if you're in an oil company, oh, green, blue, hydrogen karo, ye karo, wo karo, hamara dhanda khatam ho gaya. You can say, e-commerce has taken away our food, but you have to convert it into constructive energy. And I don't want to go into my own experiences because the clock is ticking. But that's the fourth lesson, that the human engineer was able to work with me. So when I wanted to tell my Brookbound colleagues that, listen, if you don't change, it's going to be finished. The HR chief would say, is there another way to put it? He didn't tell you which way to put it. He said, this simple question, is there another way to do it, sets you thinking. What other way? Tell me, hurry up. Say, there's a Korean proverb, this is what I was told, which says when you want to move fast, you must slow down. I said, yaar, ye to kahan ka hai? Is he speaking in English or Malayalam? But there is such a Korean proverb, by the way, that when you want to slow down, when you want to speed up, you must slow down. So when you're dealing with a very complex set of issues, the HR chief, and the fifth and the last lesson is communicate both ways, but both ways. If you're not willing to sit and listen, you see the CEO is like a Ferrari. He is moving at 150 kilometers, skidding the tires, burning the rubber. HR chief is like a soft brake. Aista, aista, ho jayega. Karo. But we must do this in a proper way. And once the HR chief understands that he has to bring that human engineering into his role, because the company CEO, the HR, the operations chief, the marketing chief, more importantly the finance chief, have all been dehumanized. If you can't bring empathy with leadership, then you've lost the plot. Now, answer cannot be, how do you do it? वो सुनता नहीं है मेरी बात. वो सुनता नहीं है तो आप में कोई कमी है. कान सफाई वाले को बुलाओ, अपने गले को ठीक करो. But if you can't do this, find yourself another job. So with that message, I want to tell you that the impact of technology on HR is making its role very important. But I have a fear, and I'm sharing it with my colleagues in humility. I feel that HR people haven't recognized this. And I'm giving you a Chetavadi today. Please realize it. That importance of introducing into the leadership dictionary the word empathy, not by giving lectures. I can give lectures, that's left for me, not for the HR chief. Kuch karke dikhao. So when the terrorist attack happened in the Taj Hotel, or when Tata Finance got into a scam, and Ratan Tata stood up and said, I will pay for everybody, nobody will lose money. That was empathy. And nobody knew how much money was involved. But I sat at the board table and was part of everybody who approved 800 crores. 800 crores. When the liability of a company is limited to its share capital. That's empathy. And I think all people are capable of it. And if HR people can make the rose bloom without blooming themselves, bravo. Thank you very much.